So in this video, we'll look at the custom domain and SSL certificates, how we can apply the SSL certificates on this one. So in the last video, we talked about deploying an application into an Azure App Services. That is a code. So when we create an app service, as we discussed, so Azure will, so by default, Azure will provide an FQDN name, okay? Like in abcd dot some xyz xxx dot, I would say, Azure websites.net. So which is a public domain name and which is unique across the globe and will have a public IP. But we don't want to have this name. Let's say I have my business as acutelearn.com. Then why do I choose the www.xxx dot some Azure websites? I would like to have my own domain name. So my application should be accessible, like as we see, www.isis.com, www.microsoft.com. So every business owner would like to have their own domain name mapped to the application or to a business. Now, that is where we call it as a custom domain. Custom domain is basically a business name or the some kind of our own FKD name to the app service. So we can have our own app service. Sorry, we can have our own an FQDN name to the app service. Okay, like some xyz.com or something like that. So in order to do that for a custom domain, so need to have access to the DNS for the domain. So Azure will not enable you or allows you to add whatever the domain which you want to do it. Do you really own that particular domain? So I'm the owner of an acutelearn.com domain, but someone else is also using www.acutelearn.com, then it is an issue for me. So where are we going to control that? It is in a DNS. So we need to have access to the DNS for the domain so that we can create a CNAME or a text record to verify the ownership. So Azure is going to validate that, do you really own this particular domain? Are you the real owner of this domain? So by enabling us to create a DNS records for that particular domain. So if we create that records, then Microsoft Azure will think that, okay, you are the real owner of that particular domain, and you can map that particular domain to the app service. So let's see how we can add this one. So let me go to this one. So I'm creating an app service. I'm giving Acute HRMS. I'm giving it review and create. So we have the app service created. Let me take the URL and paste this URL. So we see that we have the URL up and running application. So let me deploy R1 application. Let me go to the deployment center, FTP credentials. Let me set the password. I'm trying to deploy my own application. So let me open an SFTP client. I'm saying an FTP, TLS encryption, copy the URL. I'm pasting it here. Username acute HRMS/Venkat. So I'm dragging, dropping the code. So I have the code deployed. Let me take the URL. So we see an URL called as an acute.hrms.azurewebsites.net. And so my application is getting loaded. I don't want to have this URL. So I want to have an URL like an. So instead of acute.hrms.azurewebsites.net, I want to have it hrms.acuteland.com. So I would like to have my own an FQDN rather than which is provided by Microsoft. So let's go to the app services. In the app services, we can see called as a custom domains. So add a custom domain. If you don't have a domain, you can buy the domain from Microsoft. So you can provide your domain name, whatever one which you want to buy it. I'm giving it like an acute, I would say called as learn.in. You see, the domain is unavailable. Here are some similar domains. It means someone else has already been owned this domain. So I already registered it. So I would say called this and something just for it. Now you can see the domain is available. Now you can just verify that the domain which you want it, you want to buy that, you can buy it. If you already have a domain, you can just ignore this. So you can go to the custom domain, select all other domain services. If you purchased a domain using an app service domain, then you can select this one. But if your domain is outside of the Azure App Services domain, then you can select all other domains. SSL certificate. If you are purchasing a certificate from the App Service Managed, then you can use this. If you're purchasing a certificate from outside the Azure, then you can select Add Certificate later. Now, domain name. So I'm giving hrms.akitlan.com. So now it is giving you first name and type record. How do we basically validate this one? How are we going to validate? Now we can see that it is create a test record pointing to this one. So I want to have a C name created for this one. I don't want to create a record. I want to create an SC name record. Now it is giving a C name record. Go to your DNS. So I'm having my DNS in GoDaddy. Add a DNS record. I'm selecting a CNAME, HRMS, and the record which is being provided in the app service. Here I can see AcuteLearn CNAME record. We need to create it. So I'm creating a CNAME record for HRMS at the rate hrms.akitlan.com to this one. Click on save. Just wait for a minute before you verify it. Now click on validate. Now Azure is going to verify whether you have really created this DNS record. Okay. If you create it, it resolves, then it says you are the real owner of this particular domain. Now it's saying that status this one. Now you can see add now. Now you have the custom domain added, which is called as an hrms.akitlan.com. But there is no SSL certificate. So let me go to the incognito window. I'm saying hrms.akitlan.com. So I'm getting an error message saying that does not support a secure connection with HTTPS because we have not deployed SSL certificate matching this particular domain name. The certificate was being provided by the Microsoft, which is in this one. Okay. So I'm saying continue to this white. It's giving your connection is not private. Proceed to this one. Now we have this one, which is, now I can access using hrms.acutland.com. So this way you can have your custom domain. Now, how do we add certificate? Now I want to secure this using this one. So when you go to the certificates, one is you can buy the certificate from the Azure itself, or you can buy the certificate from other vendors like GoDaddy or SSL or some other vendors like in Trust, or there are so many vendors, and you can bring your own certificates. So if you have bought your certificate outside of Azure, then you can use called as and bring your own certificates, and you can import certificate. If it is a PFX file, whatever the PFX file, it is in this thing, you can do that. So if already purchased an SSL certificate from the Azure, you can use that. Or you can buy a new certificate from Azure. You can specify the domain name and you can purchase it. Now Microsoft is providing whatever the name. Already I purchased it, so it is giving you that. So already we can see that there is a certificate available here. So once you have an SSL certificate available, go to the custom domain, select this, you see add binding. Select the certificate, which certificate you want to bind. As it is an FQDN name, I'm using SNI. If it is an IP based, then I can select IP based. Now HRMS dot, add it. Now I mapped the SSL certificate also to this custom domain. Now earlier we were getting an error message. Here we can see not secure. Now let me close this browser. Let me go to the incognito window and paste this HTTPS. So now I see that I don't get an error, but I'm not sure why. Certificate is valid. Okay, so force is given, that antivirus is giving it, but we see that we don't have any error. Okay, so this way, so we can add our own domain, map an FQDN name to an app service and deliver our application. And you can either you can buy the SSL certificate from Microsoft or from external and bind that certificate onto your custom domain so that you can have the secure access for your website. That's how you can use the custom domains and SSL certificates on the app service.